Emily Rees. Today is a jury day here in central Illinois, so I apologize if the lighting is kind of dark and gloomy. I have one window, so I've got all my lights on in my living room and the window shade open, and this is the best lighting I got, so I apologize. But today I'm bringing to you my favorite books read in 2021. So these are books that I read. These are not books that were published in 2021. There are only 9 books on this list. And the reason for that is I wanted the best of the best. And also, I had an author, Robin Hobb. I easily could have put 3 books on there, maybe 4, and that would have blown up the list. Same with Brandon Sanderson. So I stuck to one author, one book. So that being said, here's my list of books. So the first book is A Clockmaker's Daughter by Kate Morton. And this is just the story of an archivist in London in modern day times. And she discovers a satchel with a sketchbook and a portrait of a mysterious woman. And she discovers that they're connected to a famous painter, Edward Radcliffe, who years ago he hosted a summer party at a home that he bought in the country. And at this party, his fiancée is murdered, as well as a family jewel is stolen. And the person that they think did it disappears. So it's a story of what really happened at this cottage party, and also just what we get multiple timelines and multiple people's point of views, and how are all these people connected to this house. It's a beautiful, haunting tale of home, and of loss and longing. The next book is A Sky Beyond the Storm. It's the 4th book in An Ember in the Ashes, and it's about Leia, who is a scholar. Her people are oppressed, and she, at the beginning of Ember in the Ashes, she signs up to be a servant at this military school because her brother, who has ties to the resistance, is captured and is thrown in prison. So she agrees to be a spy for the resistance to try to free her brother. While she's there, she meets Elias, who is like the premier student at the school, and they meet, and a love triangle ensues. And this is their story, and just how are they going to work against the powers of good and evil. So I enjoyed this conclusion. The next book is What is a Girl Worth by Rachel Denhollander. And Rachel Denhollander is a survivor from Larry Nassar, who was the doctor who sexually abused hundreds of gymnasts. And this is her memoir about the abuse that she suffered from Larry Nassar, how she, got a little emotional there, how she survived after that, and then how she worked with law enforcement and prosecution to help get Larry Nassar behind bars. This is an important read. I don't want to say too much more because I feel like her words speak more. All right, sorry. Okay, the next book is The Firekeepers Daughter by Angeline Booley. And you will notice that I have tabs in this book. I started tabbing books. The colors don't mean anything. I just tab as I read. And I just pick whatever color is available. I know some people, when they annotate and tab, each color means something. That's not for me. That's too much work. But at any rate, this book is a debut. It's marketed as a young adult book. I would say it's more of a new adult for some heavy themes. There are trigger warnings, please, for drug abuse, suicide, murder, and rape. so please understand this. But this is the story of Donna Fontaine, and she lives on I'm going to mispronounce it, Ojibwe reservation, and her brother plays hockey, and she gets recruited by the FBI to investigate a drug ring that's happening on the reservation and in her community. I thought it was very beautifully written. I will say this, I kind of figured out who was involved before the end reveal, but either way, it was just a beautiful piece of literature, and I'm looking forward to reading more from this author. I'm looking forward to reading more from this author. This is her first novel, so I'm hoping she writes more. I thought she was a very talented author, and I thought it was wonderful to read more diverse, and to read more Native things about Native Americans and what they're still facing today. The next book is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. And Addie LaRue, she makes a deal with, not the devil, but he's kind of like the demon of the night, I guess. And she makes this deal as she's fleeing an arranged marriage that she doesn't want in the late 1700s of France. And the deal is that she will be able to live forever, but no one will be able to remember her. And so it's her story throughout the years, and until modern day New York City, she meets someone who is able to remember her. And how is it that he's able to remember her? And as she progresses through life, this demon creature will visit her and kind of tease her and torment her with what could have been and what could be. This is my first ever V.E. Schwab book that I read. I'm looking forward to reading more by her. And I read this right after I read Hamnet, and as I was reading this, I thought, this lyricism is what I wanted from Hamnet. So I just thought it was beautiful. It is dark, but it was a really good read. The next book at number 4, I'm working my way backwards. Number 4 is Alias Grace by Margaret Atwood, and this is based on a true story of a 16-year-old girl in the late 1800s of Canada who, along with a serving boy, she's a serving girl, along with a serving boy, like a stable man, they murder their owner, or not their owner, because they're not slaves, beg your pardon. They murder their employer and the head maid of the house, who is also their employer's mistress. And this is now about 16 years later after the murders. She was 16, and a doctor is interviewing her to determine, like, is she clinically insane? Was she aware of what happened when she was murdering the people, or did she really murder them? Who murdered these people? What is her involvement? In real life, we don't know what happened. There's so many different stories, and as we read this book, it's fascinating to see, like, the character of the doctor kind of devolve, and who really is sane, who really is not sane, who's moral, who's not moral. It was interesting to see those tensions, and I thought Margaret Atwood did a wonderful job in laying out the story, and also discussing issues of class, of sex, of race. She is Irish. She's an Irish immigrant, and during that time, they were hated. So it was just a really fascinating read. At number 3 is Dune by Frank Herbert. And this is the story of Paul Atreides. He's a 15-year-old boy, and his family is sent to the desert planet of Arrakis, where spice is king, and the universe is run by spice and the spice mining. I don't really know much more how to summarize this book beyond that. This is a beast of a book. It is quite long. I read it because, one, the movie came out, which the movie I thought was fantastic. Two, I felt like I like sci-fi, and how have I not read this book? I will have to say this. A lot of authors, when they're creating worlds, they will explain things to you. So Brandon Sanderson, he will say, like, as he's building his world, he'll explain, like, and this metal, if you burn this metal, you can do this, and if you burn this metal, you can do that. I mean, it's not as plain as that, but it's pretty clear. Frank Herbert does not do that. And so when I first started reading this book, I really struggled because he introduces characters and political factions, for example, the Bene Gesserit. And as I'm reading, I'm like, what are the Bene Gesserit? What are the Bene Gesserit? Who are they? What do they want? I want to know. Please explain it to me. Well, Frank Herbert doesn't do that. What he does instead is he unfolds the story. And as you read the story, as the story unfolds, you can piece together and you will get the information. So it took me a while to understand that that is how Frank Herbert tells stories. And I feel like most authors do I'm going to just basically make it plain to you. Frank Herbert doesn't do that. He lets the story unfold, and as the story unfolds, you'll piece it together and you'll figure it out. Once I stopped fighting that and just was like, okay, I'm going to let the story carry me where it goes, it was easier for me to go along with the flow and to understand it. This was so good. I read Dune Messiah also this year, also thought it was mind-blowing. Dune Messiah is a little bit slower at the beginning. It is shorter, but Dune, if you have not read it, it is a must-read. Number 2 is my first ever Brandon Sanderson novel, and I read this at the beginning of December, and that would be Mistborn. It's also known as The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson, and this is the story of Vin, who is a street urchin, and she has what she calls luck at the beginning. Like, she's able to somehow, like, turn people and influence people so that way things will turn out the way that she wants them to. And so that makes her very valuable, as she's part of like a band of thieves. And, but she also faces tension because she's a female and she's young. And so she has to be very cautious and wary in that world until a man named Kelsier comes along. And so the premise of this whole world is that the good guy did not win. 1,000 years ago, the bad guy won. And so now this Lord Ruler has been ruling and reigning for 1,000 years and has been an oppressive ruler until Kelsier, who he is a Mistborn, meaning that he burns metal. And in this world, most people only burn one metal. However, if you're Mistborn, you are very special and you burn all of the metals. And these metals, when you burn them, they give you different powers. Like, your senses can be heightened. You can influence people's feelings. You can have incredible strength. And so he has all these powers. And so he works together and he creates a band of different thieves or people with different talents, and their goal, and he recruits Vin, whom they discover that Vin also is Mistborn, and their goal is to take down the Lord Ruler. And so this is the first book in a trilogy, and it was just he builds a world that is fascinating. And I admit it, like it's very rare for me to actually cry when I read a book. Um, like there might be books where I'm like, yeah, I should. This is supposed to be sad, but I don't cry. Like I cried reading this book. Like I had to pull the box of Kleenex out and take care of that. It was just that good. The last book is by Robin Hobb, Ship of Destiny. And yes, you can see again lots of tabs. Again, I'm just tabbing important moments in the story. Again, the colors mean nothing. So this is the third book in her Live Ship Trader series. I did not put Ship of Magic or Mad Ship. I honestly don't remember which one I gave the highest rating to. I would not give Ship of Magic the highest rating to simply because at the beginning of Ship of Magic I did not like the serpents. But backing up, I apologize, I got ahead of myself. So this trilogy, this is the third concluding story of the trilogy. This trilogy is about live ships, and so there is a family, Althea, I can't remember her last name. Okay, so Althea Vestrit, her family owns a live ship called the Vivacia, and the story is that there must be 3 consecutive generations that die on the deck of the ship, and once that third generation dies, then the ship will become alive. Like the figurehead will speak, and so her father dies on the ship, and her family ship becomes alive, and she was expecting that after her father dies that she would become captain of the Vivacia. However, her brother-in-law becomes captain, and her nephew, who is supposed to become a priest, has to stop his studies to become a priest, and is ordered by his family to live on the ship, because there must always be a family member from the original family owners to live on the ship, to help guide the ship as they have been awakened, to come into their personality. She understandably is upset, and she takes off. And so the whole trilogy is the story of Althea trying to get back her family ship. Her family, in the meantime, these ships are quite costly, and they made a deal with the Rainwild people, and any of the Bingtown traders who have these live ships make deals with the Rainwild people where the wood comes from, and they're quite costly. And so her family is in debt to now this Rainwild family, and they can't pay back the debt. And so her Kyle, who's now the new captain, is going to sell slaves and use the ship to become a slave trading ship, so that way he could pay off the debts. However, in the meantime, an evil pirate, Kenneth, comes along and captures the Vivacia. So now, the family is going, how are we going to pay back this debt to the Rainwild people? In the meantime, how do these ships become alive? What is the mystery behind the wood, and the mystery of how the Rainwilders harvest this lumber? So the Ship of Destiny ties up all of those ends, ties up all of those questions. There's so much tension throughout all of the books. I really have no idea how to say much more without giving away a whole lot of plot and storyline. Other than Robin Hobb, she is a master of character building. I mean, so good. The character arcs and watching all of the different characters grow, of learning some of the characters' backstories to discover who they are, why they are. Um, Paragon is another live ship um, who is known to be a mad live ship, and his backstory, I mean, she knows how to like basically take your heart, rip it out, break it into multiple pieces, and then put it all back together again. Um, and that is why I said when I easily could have had 3 books from Robin Hobb on this list, like the whole Life Ship Trader trilogy was just beautiful. Um, so if you have not read anything by Robin Hobb, um, some people say that you can start with the Live Ship Trader trilogy. However, I think it's important to start with her first trilogy, which is the Farseer trilogy. And the Farseer trilogy talks about Fitz, and it's the first trilogy in her realm of the Elderlings. And while there's not really a tie between Fitz and what is happening on in the Live Ship Trader trilogy, there is a reveal about one of the characters in this trilogy that if you have not read the Farseer trilogy, you will not fully understand the implications of it. So that's why I recommend reading the Farseer trilogy before the Live Ship Trader trilogy. The Farseer trilogy is also delightful. Some people think that it's very slow going. The beginning book, the main character point of view, is from a 6-year-old, so please bear that in mind. Be patient with it because she's just a beautiful author and is delightful. So that is my top 9 favorite books of this year. Please let me know in your comments down below what you're reading, what you thought was your favorite. I would love to know your thoughts and comments about these books and other books. And thank you for watching. If you like what you're seeing, please like and subscribe. Thanks.